Hello from Vicarage Road, where for the next few minutes I'll battle the lawnmowers to try and recap on what was ultimately a really disappointing second half for Hull City, to lose 2-1 against a side that had kind of been struggling in the early weeks of the season. At half-time, City were a goal up. Oli McBurnie's wonderful strike from Cody Drame's pass put City a goal up, and they were so in control, it was so comfortable. Watford had a couple of moments in the first half, but largely from City's defensive errors and an inability to stop the ball getting into their box. But you always felt at half time that there was a risk that goal, it was only 1-0, that Watford would be better in the second half. That you also felt that if City had got the second goal, then they would have gone on and won the game. This place was toxic at 1-0. As soon as McBurnie scored, after 25 minutes, immediately the ball had barely hit the back of the net, and the home fans were chanting to their manager, "You're getting sacked in the morning." They were booing every time City got into the box. McBurnie hit the post with an absolute belter of a shot, bent it round and beat Nathan Baxter, the former Tigers goalkeeper, all ends up. It cannoned back off the post, and they were booing that. They booed him off at half time. Excuse me, but we've all seen enough football to know that if you don't take your chance, it's not rocket science. If you don't take your chances, you're liable to get punished. And no matter how on top you are or how poor the opposition are, at some point they will create a chance. And City are not, as a team, are not good enough to not give up chances. They just aren't. And so in that case, you're kind of hoping that the chances the opposition create, they don't take, or the goalkeeper makes a good save. And they held out until the hour mark, and Lauser, their number 10, their skipper. I mean, I remember saying in the press box when the ball came over the top, John Egan let it bounce. Instead of going and winning the header, he let it bounce and it got into the penalty area. And you're thinking they're in trouble here. And Charlie Hughes dropped off Lauser, and he look, it's a good finish from him. You can't take anything away. It leaves Ivor Panda rooted to the spot. But by that, it should have been stopped. He should not have got to that point. And as soon as they equalised, then, you know, you're kind of thinking it could be really dangerous for Hull City. And it took until 12 minutes from time, a corner into the box, and Semedo, who'd been lively to be fair, got above McBurnie to glance a header from the near post into the far corner. And they're 2-1 up with just over 10 minutes to go. And even 7 or 8 minutes of added time, City huffed and puffed. They had a couple of half chances. Baxter flapped it, as he did when he was at Hull City. He's got a ricket in him, and he flapped at one, but the flag then went up, and you just never really felt that City were going to, once they'd gone 2-1 down, that they were going to get something back, going to get back in the game. And it's the manner of the goals that they concede is so frustrating. That's now 14. No team in the Championship has conceded more. And you've got to feel for McBurnie, because, you know, he scored his third goal in 3 games. And he said to me last week after the Southampton win that if we can just tighten up defensively, if we can start keeping clean sheets, we're going to win so many games. Well, again, keep a clean sheet today, they win the game. But they've ended up losing the game. They should never have lost. Look, Watford will look at the second half. They'll look at the chances. 21 attempts at goal. I think their XG, if you care about XG, was well over 2. City's was below 1. So Watford will say in that second half we were the dominant force. We battered them. We pinned them back, and we created all the chances, and we deserved to win. It's hard to argue that in the second half Watford were the better team, because they were. But it's that first half where City was so on top. As I say, McBurnie scores. He hits the post. Giles, again, it's within the game. You think, is that going to be a turning point? Giles down the left-hand side crosses back post for Drame running in, and he should have scored. And yes, the goalkeeper Baxter makes a good save, but Drame from 6 yards coming onto the ball should have smacked it in the back of the net. Maybe if that's McBurnie, if that's Gowhart, if that's Joseph, it's 2-0. But it's Drame, it's a defender. Perhaps that's, you know, is that a fair point? I don't know. But he should, whoever it is at this level, should score. And if they go in at 2-0, as I say, the crowd had already turned at 1-0. If they go in at 2-0, I don't see any way back for Watford. But at 1-0, you know, they'd have got to kick up the backside at half-time, and they responded. And look, as much as you can criticise Hull City and you can say they didn't do this, they didn't do that, there's two teams in a game, and they're under the cosh. They're at home, and they've got good players. Let's not forget they've got some good players, and in the second half they got amongst City and got, you know, they got something out of it, and they've turned it round and gone on and won the game. It's mad though, football, isn't it? Where they're 1-0 down, and their fans are chanting for the manager to be sacked, and then they walk out cheering him. It's football is so fickle. It's so fickle that they want him gone at half time. The knives are out for him at half time. You're sacked in the morning, and then at the end of the game they win, and they jump up the table, and suddenly that league table doesn't look quite so bad for him. Football's a mad game, but as much as Watford improved in that second half, it's really hard to get away from the fact that the whole City have thrown this away. They've completely thrown this away, and they were just poor in the second half. They were slow. There was no tempo. They gave the ball away. It was, if you think back a week, that first 10 minutes against Southampton in the second half, where they couldn't get out, they were giving the ball away. They couldn't get up the pitch. It wasn't quite as bad as that, but it was similar. And there seems to be a thing here where they start second half really badly. It was the same last season, and they've got to find a way to get that out of the system. They've got to start putting teams to the sword, and that is what is stopping them being a team that are going to be lower mid-table from a team that are going to challenge in the top six. Going forward, they create chances. But you know, McBurnie today did so much of the heavy lifting, and his goal was brilliant. The way he wins the ball on halfway, he gets it out wide. Drame gets down to the byline, cuts it back. McBurnie's finish is brilliant. Then Joseph gallops through the midfield, gives it to McBurnie. He faces up his defender, drops the shoulder and bends it towards goal. And he's a lick of paint away from it going in the net at 2-0. The way Giles crosses for Drame, you know, they had some good chances, and but they've got a soft underbelly. You know, in the first half, the midfield was strong. I wonder how much the booking for Lundstram. I haven't seen a replay, so forgive me, but in real time, it looked like Lundstram won the ball. The referee, who I thought was poor today, early on gave Lundstram, I think 15 minutes in, gives Lundstram a yellow card. How much that inhibits Lundstram's ability to be that dominant force in midfield, because he's scared of getting a second yellow. Did that have an impact in the second half? Did Amir tire, because he was very good first half? But I think while you can pick out individuals, you know, Egan should have done better with the first goal, where he lets the ball bounce. He lets the ball bounce as it's coming into the penalty area. You know, Hughes stands off Louser. The way they don't deal with the build up to the shot that wins the corner, it's just messy, and the goals are so avoidable. I think that's the really annoying thing, that the opposition aren't having to do. If somebody rattles it in from 35 yards, you go, you know, fair cut, mate. It's the ease at which they're giving goals away, and at bad times in games, you know, on the hour, early in the second half, and then with 12 minutes to go, when, you know, the game's tied at 1-1, whatever, as bad as they were second half, you come away from here with a point. Not ideal, having led the game, but you don't lose the game, and that's the problem in this first block of games, where they've shown so much promise. There's so much to be excited about with this team, but the fact that, you know, they've kept one clean sheet now, and that was on the opening day. They don't look like keeping clean sheets. Even against Southampton last week, as well as they defended, they let a goal in, and that's symptomatic of the lack of concentration, the lack of that desire to win that ball and stop whatever happens. Even if it means we come away with a boring 0-0, you've got to get a platform. They've got to start keeping clean sheets, because it's undoing so much good work that they do. It's so much, as I say, so much to be enthused about what they do going forward. But if you're conceding 2 goals a game, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And as I say, you're gonna lose and draw more than you're gonna win, because you're having to score 2 goals a game to get anything. We saw it at Swansea. Swansea's only 2 shots on target. Well, they scored twice. So City have got to score twice just to get a point, and it can't continue. And they're gonna. If they want to be a team that challenges in the top 6 or around the top 6, which is their ambition, that is not going to happen if you're conceding 2 goals away from home every week. And that's what they're doing. They've got to the manager's got to find I really like the manager, but he's got to find a solution, because it's all right saying, well, as he said to me at full time, we in the week we worked on it. Everybody knows who they mark at set pieces. Everybody knows who they mark. Well, ultimately, somebody's not doing their job, whether it's the manager's tactics or the players out on the pitch. But as a collective, it's plainly obvious that there's a flaw in the system somewhere, and it's hampering their progress. And as I say, it's so frustrating, because those of the 12 and 1300 that were here today, there was so much to like, particularly in the first half, about the way they went about their work. But you always feel they're going to concede a goal, a simple cross in the box or a simple ball in the box. First half, Watford didn't really create much, but what they did create came from City's just silliness, sloppiness. Ngakia, he's allowed to get into the box. He doesn't really. He just keeps the ball and he just tries to get. He gets around 3 defenders and gets a cross in, and then the striker's not picked up when he backflips it towards the goal. And luckily, Pandor's made himself big and he blocks it. But if it's in if it's in far corner, they score in the first half. So they've got to be better. They have to be so much better than what we're seeing at the minute defensively. And it's easy to criticise Hughes, who's not having a good season, in fairness to Charlie Hughes. Egan struggled today. It's easy to criticise Giles and Louis Coyle and the defensive back five, the goalkeeper. But you defend from the front, and the midfield have got to be better than what they were today, second half. And like I say, we said it at half time that was as much as it was comfortable for them. If you don't kill teams off, this league is so even. If you don't kill teams off, you are susceptible to being punished. It only takes, even the worst team in the division, it only takes a ball into the box or a corner or a shot that's deflected in to completely change a game, and in this case change an atmosphere. And they, as I say, they were just not good enough in that second half. They've got to take responsibility, because it's inherently annoying, and for those fans that were so supportive and so happy at half time, they watched that in the second half, and we could all see it coming. As I say, you don't have to be a football scientist to work out that what was going to happen. So look, they've got themselves to blame. Give Watford a bit of credit for the way they went at it second half, and they asked questions, and ultimately City were not good enough to answer those questions with any great conviction. They didn't win tackles, they didn't stop crosses, they didn't win second balls, they didn't win their duels, and ultimately, you get what you put out. You get out of it what you put in, and in that second half, they didn't deserve anything. Half time, yes, they were much the better team, and they deservedly in front. But second half, I think if they're honest with themselves on that coach back up to Hull, they'll say, we've got ourselves to blame. On the plus side, before we crack on, great to see Liam Miller back on the bench. He didn't get on the pitch today, unfortunately. I think if they'd have killed the game off, which they should have done in the first half, and if they'd have turned up in the second half and delivered a performance, Miller would have got on the pitch, because they'd have been home and hosed, and what the game would have been done and dusted, and they could have afforded to put Miller on for the last 10 minutes. But as it was, it was a game where they felt they couldn't put him on. Liam, it was the proverbial game of two halves. Let me just scroll back. Bear with me a second to find out who asked about Joel and Darla. Danny says is it time to drop Hughes or Egan? And they are conceding stupid goals. Yeah, I think once Shemi Ajayi's back, I think he'll come straight back in the team. Danny, does Sergei take some blame? I think possibly could have changed it earlier. I don't disagree with that. Maybe the drama thing that worked in the first half, he could have changed that. Look, it's one of them, innit? One week the manager makes the changes and they work, the next week the manager makes the changes and they don't work. And the changes he made today didn't work. JB didn't, and Slater coming on didn't really have the impact. Akintola was like a headless chicken at times. Got himself in injury time. That they're on the attack. Watford turn it over. He drags back his man. It's like, why are you doing that? He's got cover in midfield. Gives away a free kick and eats up 2 minutes. And there was a couple of times he gets to the byline, he put the ball out of play, but then he had a shot on target. So Akintola is so up and down, it's incredible. But the changes didn't work. I would agree with that. Somebody asked, Brian, agree about that. Watford the better side in the second half, no complaints. Alex Ndala's got a slight foot problem, so they're trying to understand with Man City what's the best course of action with that. So it's not selection, it is just the fact that he's got a bit of an ongoing problem in his foot they're trying to solve. So that's some of the questions answered. I just get frustrated, like you guys, like all the fans and everybody associated with the club, because this was an opportunity. They've not won back-to-back games for a year, so psychologically it's something that if they'd have done it today, going into Preston on Tuesday night and then Sheffield United on Saturday, of course they've won today. They're starting to come into, I wouldn't say form after one win, but that's big for them getting that first win. And suddenly, that drags City a bit closer, doesn't it, to that bottom three, albeit very, very early. But I don't know. Psychologically, it would have been so important for them to get that to go 2 weeks, to go back to back, first away win. Get that monkey off your back as well. Get that done early. You're going into the Preston game on the back of 2 wins and a point at Swansea. Suddenly, everybody's feeling a lot better about things. Everybody's a bit more confident. As it is, suddenly you go into that Preston game with a lot of pressure, and it's the home form that is holding them up at the minute. They've not won a game away from home. They've drawn a couple. They've now lost a couple away from home. And it's the amount of goals that they're conceding. I don't disagree. Watford were garbage in that first half. They were sloppy. They looked like a team bereft of confidence. And it wasn't a massive surprise when City scored. But the Achilles heel is going on, and what the good teams do, the good teams, when they get in front against poor teams that are struggling or that they're on top, they go and kill the game off. They don't leave it to chance. And this league is so even. Every team is so closely matched that even the best teams here, Watford are going to create chances. It's unrealistic to expect that City are going to come here, dominate the ball, score 3-4 goals, and not allow Watford to have a chance. They're not that good. That isn't this league. Every team is going to have a spell in games where they create chances. It's what you do, it's how you defend that. But when you go down the other end, you make them pay. You get that chance from Drame and you put it in the back of the net. You don't give a goalkeeper the chance. It's all right saying, I said that he's a defender. You've got to give him credit for getting into the position. But you've got to, if you've got aspirations of being a player that gets promoted, that gets into the Premier League, you score that goal. If you want to be a team that get promoted, you win your headers. You don't let the one direct ball over the top bounce in your penalty area. You win the header. You put the player with the ball in the sand. For the first goal. If you're Charlie Hughes, you don't give their best player, their number 10, their skipper, that time on the edge of the box. You get out and block him. You get out and block a shot. You don't just go, okay, I've shot a goal, and you wonder why he sticks it in the bottom corner. These are basic things, and if Charlie Hughes has got aspirations of being a Premier League footballer, he can't allow that to happen. But he's 21, so he's going to make mistakes. But it's a collective thing. Individually, they're making mistakes, but they've got to be better. Otherwise, these results, they're going to have one of these seasons where they pull off they beat a Southampton. You go, hang on a minute, can that team challenge? Can they get further up the table? Can they get Can they get into that top 10 and potentially higher? And then you come here today and go, well, at 1-0, they look really good. And you end up sitting here at 7 o'clock at night going, how the bloody hell have they lost that? And that's why they are where they are in the table. Yes, it's still early. And I still maintain this is a team that there's a lot to be excited about. And they've got a lot of good players. And they'll be better when Crooks comes back, when Ajay comes back. Obviously, Bellumi being out and Miller coming back, that's all positive things. However, if you're conceding 2 goals a game, you've got a real problem. You don't have to be a highly paid football manager or a professional footballer to work out where your problems are. You've only got to look at the results so far this season and look at the league table, and it tells you fundamentally what their problem is. They can't keep clean sheets. And it's not, football's, it might have been overcomplicated over the years, but it's not, it hasn't changed. The teams that score the most, I said it last season, teams that score the most goals and concede the fewest are the ones that are successful. The teams that concede the most are the ones, struggle. Yes, City are scoring goals, so that's a real positive, and they look a real threat, and they should have got that second goal. But it's really hard for players like McBurnie and Gowhart and Joseph when they're doing their job up the top of the pitch, and they look back and, we're not winning headers. And I'm conscious that McBurnie was the guy that was beaten to the second goal header, but McBurnie wins so many headers in his own box. In the first half, when they were putting corners in, McBurnie was the one that was back there. He's not going to win them all, and it's unfortunate that he was the one. I think, unless I'm wrong, and I've not seen a replay, but I'm sure that he went up for the header, and the Semedo got above him to put it in the corner. But for me, there's two issues, and Robert asked that, and Luke, I think one or two others. They've got the two fundamental problems. Is in midfield, they don't have enough control. They did in the first half. Second half, they lost control, and because they lost control, that gave Watford the ability to play 10, 15, 20 yards further up the pitch, and they recycled the ball. So every time City had the ball at the back, it went into midfield and they lost it, which is something we saw against Southampton last week. So that's something they need to sort out, and they've got to sort out defensively. I mean, it feels like I'm hammering him here, but Cody Drame was brought into the team on the right to help Louis Coyle and double up against their wingers, particularly Ngakia, who's a former City target, by the way. But in the first few minutes, Ngakia gets down the left-hand side and put two crosses in. Drame didn't stop either of them. So we've got to stop crosses. And again, I know you're not going to stop 10 crosses out of 10, but you've got to stop balls coming into your box, and that's a fundamental. And they've just got to be sharper and concentrate. And I think Charlie's having a really difficult time. Although I thought he was better at Swansea, bar the goal that Vipotnik scored. Again, I thought he was decent against Southampton, but he's 21. You're going to have peaks and troughs. He's going to have good games and bad games, which fundamentally proves why he's not ready to go to the Premier League. Luke, I've already answered that question on Ndala. He's injured. I will put an update out as well in the morning about that, just to explain a bit more in detail about Ndala. But he's got an injury, so it's not selection. Richard, I said it earlier on, in case you missed it, about Lundstram. I felt that yellow card for the referee did have an impact. I think Lundstram is so all action, and I think it did. If you watch the game, it did change how he approached it. He had to be really careful about going into challenges, because that Oliver Langford was card happy. He booked the manager as well. He was handing it out like confetti. I mean, I was a bit concerned when I saw in the week that Oliver Langford was the referee and Gavin Ward was the fourth official. I mean, I don't know what Gavin Ward was doing at 90 minutes, whether he was having a nap, because he didn't put the board up until the 91st minute. He's got one job. But I just didn't think, and that's not me being bitter because City have lost. I felt the referee was just bitty all afternoon. And that booking for Lundstram, I do think had a negative impact on City's midfield performance. And exactly, Luke. That's one away from a suspension, which is not ideal. So they've got to watch that. But I'm just aghast at what I've seen in the second half. It's just inherently frustrating that they've contrived to lose a game that they were so in control of, and they've got the home fans chanting that their manager was going to be sacked in the morning, and they've ended up losing the game. I mean, they've got a crap record here anyway, haven't they? Let's be honest. At least they scored a goal, first time since 2012. But that should never have happened. And as I say, without saying the same thing, if they're going to be a team that have aspirations, and I know they do. We did that interview with Jared Dublin before the game. They've got aspirations of challenging in the top six. That team isn't going to challenge in the top six if you're shipping 2 goals a game. It really isn't. Luke, I think he was trying to shift it and trying to give them more ability to stop when the long ball comes over, to try and get the wing backs forward. But they just, I don't think it was about systems. I don't think it was tactics. I don't think it was systems. I don't think it was anything to do with that today. I just think, as a collective, they fell into the trap of thinking this is too easy at half time. We're 1-0 up. They're booing everything. The home fans are booing everything they do. They're booing the manager. They want him sacked. it's almost like they were waiting for things to happen. They were waiting for Watford to give them a second goal, or they were waiting for the game just to peter out to a kind of tepid conclusion and take the 3 points. That's not football at this level. That isn't how it works. Teams don't, no matter what's going on here, whether the fans are angry or not, that's just not how it works. Teams are going to, these have got good individuals. This is a good team. And their owner expects them to challenge for promotion here. So it was naive to think that Watford was suddenly just going to roll over and have City score 4 or 5. You have to earn the right. You have to go and get that second goal and get the third goal. Particularly when you're on top, you have to come out the second half with a bit between your teeth and kill the game off early. Take it away from them. Do not give them and their crowd chance to get a bit of atmosphere in the ground, positive atmosphere. And they did. They allowed Watford to play in their half. And suddenly, if the home team start playing in your half and start putting balls in the box and starting creating moments, even if it shots over a wide, it gives a bit of confidence. It changes momentum. Suddenly, City are 10, 15 yards deeper. And teams don't need a second invitation. And as I say, it's easy to go, well, Watford are rubbish. They've had they lost 2 in a row. Managers under pressure. Team aren't having a great time with it, and expect that they're going to wipe the floor with them. That's not how it. We all know the Championship. That's why it's the most difficult league in the world, because the teams are so close. And City are not good enough to just kind of sit back and go, well, we're going to win this 1-0. They're not that level. They're not that good. They have to keep playing on the front foot, and they have to keep trying to force it, and to keep trying to get that killer goal. Look, they're going to have to take the medicine. They've got beat. You can't change it. Then they're going to have to respond to this at home to Preston, who are a good side at this level. We know that. But at least on the plus side, they've got a game on Tuesday night. It's not like Bristol City where they've just been pumped and conceded 1,000 chances and they've got 2 weeks to wallow in it. They've got a game on Tuesday night and they've got to put it right. Tom, I've got no idea who invented the skip. Certainly not Oliver. Luke, yes, I spoke to Joe Galhart. Fair play to him for fronting up. It's always hard for a player after the game because they don't want to talk to the media. They just want to get on the bus and go home. But he was honest, frustrated. And that's, what more can you say? We're frustrated. We should have won the game. We didn't. We've got to respond on. It's the same cliched. Joff. I love Joff. I do. I speak so highly of him. But what can a player say after the game? Apart from who invented the skip, clearly. So that's it. Right. I'm going to call it a day because it's a long jump home. It's a heck of a journey home. So let's just get home and roll on to Tuesday. Thanks for all your comments, everybody. If you've been here today, Lee, everybody else, safe trip back, because the fans were brilliant again today, and they deserve more than the annual loss at Watford. So maybe next year we'll get better at Watford. Anyway, we'll have the podcast for you at the 1904 Club if you want to get in touch. On Monday, we'll be with Sergei Yakirovich at the training ground on Monday, and then Tuesday night at home to Preston, followed by that big Yorkshire derby against Sheffield United at the MKM next Saturday lunchtime. That's it from me here at Vicarage Road. We will be back again soon. Up the Tigers.